Dear colleagues, friends and partners, it is my great honor to welcome you to the celebration of a remarkable milestone, the 25th anniversary of the Energy Regulators Regional Association. 25 years is a long time in any organization's life, but in the energy sector, a sector that has transformed more in the past 2.5 decades than in the previous century, it represents an entire era. Today, we celebrate not only the passage of time, but the achievements, the spirit, and the collective commitment that have shaped ERRA into the respected, influential, and forward-looking association it is today. ERRA was founded at a moment of profound change. The late 90s and early 2000s were years of transition for many of our member countries, politically, economically, and institutionally. Energy markets were being liberalized. Independent regulation was a new idea. The framework for transparency, accountability, and consumer protection were only beginning to take shape. In that environment, ERRA emerged as a bridge between regulators with different histories but common aspirations, a bridge between countries seeking stable, predictable markets and investors searching for clarity, a bridge between experts, institutions, and ideas. And throughout these 25 years, one thing remained constant: ERRA's belief that strong, independent, professional regulation is a foundation of a secure, affordable, and sustainable energy future. Looking back, our achievements speak for themselves. We have helped build regulatory capacity in thousands of countries through a wide portfolio of training programs and knowledge-sharing platforms. Thousands of professionals, many of whom now lead their institutions, received training, certification, and peer support through ERRA. Our analytical reports, benchmarking initiatives, and working groups in different formats have created reference materials used well beyond our membership. We have built a truly international community, expanding our membership to include authorities from Europe, Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and Americas. Today, ERRA is not a regional association in the narrow sense of the word. It is a global platform for advancing regulatory excellence. And we have done all of this by staying true to our principles: professionalism, independence, cooperation, and service to the public interest. But anniversaries are not only about celebrating the past, they're equally about looking ahead. The next 25 years will challenge us in ways we could not have imagined 25 years ago. The energy transition is reshaping everything we regulate. We are now navigating a system where renewable energy is becoming dominant, where flexibility is essential, where grids must be digital, and where investment needs are unprecedented. Regulators must ensure that markets remain reliable and secure, even as technologies become more decentralized, more variable, and more complex. Consumers are no longer passive users, they're active participants. Prosumers, storage owners, communities, and aggregators are entering the markets. This demands new tariff designs, new market rules, and new approaches to fairness and affordability. Security of supply has turned to the top of the agenda. Geopolitical shifts, climate-driven challenges, and supply chain disruptions have shown us how fragile energy systems can be. Regulators must balance resilience with market efficiency, speed of deployment with long-term stability. Digitalization will define our future regulatory tasks. AI, data management, cybersecurity, smart metering, and automated grid management are no longer distant concepts. They are today's reality. Regulators must develop the skills and tools to oversee these dimensions responsibly and confidentially. In this dynamic environment, ERRA's role becomes even more important. Our association must continue to serve as a trusted source of knowledge, the convening space for experience sharing, and the network that helps regulators navigate uncertainty with confidence. Looking forward, I see several priorities for the next phase of ERRA evolution. First, investing in capacity building for the future. We must equip regulators with the skills needed for digital markets, flexibility services, and clean energy technologies. Training must evolve as fast as the sector evolves. Second, strengthening our international partnerships. The future of energy is interconnected. Cross-border cooperation is not optional, it is essential. ERRA must continue fostering relationships with regional and global organizations. Third, amplifying regulatory best practices and evidence-based analysis. As the challenges grow more complex, the need for rigorous, transparent, and forward-thinking regulatory frameworks became more urgent. ERRA can lead by providing data, methodologies, and thought leadership that support its members' decision-making. And finally, preserving the core values on which this association was built: independence, professionalism, integrity. These values were important 25 years ago. They are even more important today. In an era of a rapid change, they anchor our work and safeguard the public interest we serve. Dear colleagues and friends, our anniversary is not simply a celebration of where we have been. It is a reminder of how far we can go together. I want to express my deepest gratitude to the founders of ERRA, whose vision made this community possible, to our former chairs and committee leaders who guided our development, to the Secretariat whose dedication keeps us moving forward, and to all member regulators whose active participation makes ERRA a living, learning, thriving institution. 25 years ago, ERRA was an idea. Today, it is an institution. Tomorrow, it will be a force shaping the future of regulation and the energy transition. Thank you for being part of this journey, and thank you for your trust, your commitment, and your cooperation. And most importantly, thank you for helping to ensure that ERRA's next 25 years will be as meaningful and impactful as the first. Congratulations to all members, and happy anniversary, ERRA.
Distinguished colleagues, I started my energy regulatory career in the early days of the new millennium, January 2000. It was 10 years after the fall of the Soviet Union and its alliance. I was 37, and I thought it was time to focus on building energy cooperation with the West, and in particular, the European Union. And then came ERRA. The original idea of ERRA was developed by my Hungarian colleagues in cooperation with some other Central and Eastern European regulatory colleagues and also American colleagues. The idea was about to restore energy sector cooperation between former Soviet bloc countries located to the east and south of the EU border, and now on a voluntary basis. The interest of the original signatories of the ERRA statute in enhancing energy sovereignty and security in their respective countries was overwhelming. Finding ways to promote sufficient private investment to modernize their energy systems while keeping affordable prices for energy customers was the other key area of interest. Based on this common interest, the decision was made to create ERRA. Let me thank those who contributed perhaps the most to establish and nurture ERRA from nothing. Our American friends, Mr. Robert Archer of ex-US Aid, Ms. Erin Skutsky of NERUC, and my fellow Hungarian colleagues, Kristina Kassa and Gabor Szörényi. I thank them to get me on board with this initiative, despite my early suspicion towards it. I also thank all those 13 brave fellow regulators who dared to sign the ERRA Statute and Articles of Constitution on December 11th, 2000 in Bucharest, Romania. Dear colleagues, in the last 25 years, ERRA has traveled a long and very successful journey. It has grown from a regional initiative to a global reference institution for the energy regulatory community, with a special emphasis on issues relevant for developing non-OECD countries as well. There is no room in this brief congratulatory note to discuss the achievements of the association. But to do so, let me encourage you to join next year's ERRA Annual Conference in Bratislava on April 27th and 28th. Let's assess together the contribution of ERRA to develop and promote good energy regulatory practices worldwide in Bratislava. Dear colleagues, throughout the last 2.5 decades, energy issues have turned out to be ever more important, and it is the same today. Besides digitalization, electrification and green energy transition have become decisive global trends. Renewable electricity is becoming abundant and creates massive change in how we operate our electricity systems or store electricity in both the electricity and the transport sectors. In Europe, we are closing the tap on Russian oil and gas that will have a major impact on energy security, affordability, and industrial competitiveness of the old continent. All these changes require not only massive private and public energy investments, but also well-educated and dedicated energy experts with a high level of personal integrity. Energy sector regulators are again at the center of change to ensure a credible investment environment for the current transition. Let me wish ERRA a great success in contributing to this change in the extraordinary way it has done so in the last 25 years. Happy birthday, ERRA. Live long for the benefit of the people of our countries.
Distinguished participants, dear friends and colleagues, it is a great honor and privilege for me to address you today to celebrate the 25th anniversary of ERRA. As a former chairman of ERRA and current chairman of its Strategic Advisory Board, I'm very glad to see how ERRA has evolved over the years into a respected international platform for energy regulators. 25 years ago, the main task was simple: only to support the transition from state-owned market model into market-based competitive model. Today, our agenda is far broader and much more complex. The energy sector has witnessed many challenges within the recent years: supply chain disruptions, market volatility, high energy and commodity prices, trade wars, conventional wars, sanctions, and many others. Within this environment, nations must ensure energy security, provide affordable energy for their people, and advance decarbonization objectives. There are even greater challenges that we are going to face in the upcoming years and decades, like the introduction of AI, data centers, electric vehicles into our energy systems. To manage these turbulent times and to address these challenges, we need strong political will and commitment, and of course, competent regulators. Only through good regulatory framework we can provide stability and predictability. We can protect our consumers, build trust with investors, create knowledge, and lead to innovation. ERRA has been instrumental in building these regulatory capacity through training, peer learning, and the development of good regulatory practices. That's why we attach great importance to this cooperation, and we will continue to support ERRA in every aspect. Distinguished friends, let me briefly share how we approach this transition in Türkiye, because our experience reflects many of the challenges and opportunities that ERRA members are facing. The power demand in Türkiye have tripled in the last 20 years and will triple again in the next 3 decades. To meet this growing demand, we are investing heavily in generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity. On the generation side, our total installed capacity has already exceeded 120 gigawatts, with over 60% of renewables. And we aim to increase the renewable capacity to 120 gigawatts by the year 2035. We are supporting this expansion through competitive tenders, improved and fastened permitting process, and a clear market-based framework. We are undertaking all these investments and projects with a sound and proactive regulatory mechanism. For example, we have recently introduced the so-called super permit, fast-track authorization mechanisms for energy investments. While speeding up the permitting process, the global energy landscape is changing fast, and the quality of regulation will largely shape the success of this transition. Good regulation reduces risk, attracts investment, and enables new technologies, while poor regulation does the opposite. ERRA's mission therefore remains vital. By sharing experience and building capacity, it supports its members and ensures that regulators have a strong voice in regulation and global energy debates. On this special occasion, I sincerely thank all who have contributed to ERRA over the past 25 years. Together, we can continue to build more secure, sustainable, and affordable energy markets for our citizens. Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Jorge. I'm Luca Schiavo from the ERRA Secretariat, and we want to have a talk today about the change in energy regulation. I think there are three main reasons why energy regulation is nowadays much more complex than 25 years ago, when ERRA was constituted and when in Europe first independent regulators started to talk each other. At that time, you, Jorge, were chairman of the Portuguese Energy Regulatory Authority, ERSE. So you are in the perfect position to guide us in comparing condition then and now. Let's start with the main objective of the regulation, energy efficiency. In the past, it was balancing efficiency with effectiveness, with value for the customer, mainly quality of service, mainly quality of supply. Now, I think it's much wider. Sustainability, of course, across a large number of dimensions like security, environment, resilience, geopolitical crisis, even war. So much more difficult work for regulator. What do you think about that?
You are absolutely right, and thank you very much for this opportunity to exchange views with you again. We have done this regularly for a long time, at least for 25 years. And congratulations to ERRA, of course, for the anniversary. I would say that very briefly, things are more complex because many things have changed, and I will highlight just three very briefly. The first one is what I would call the politics of regulation, what legislators and society expect from regulatory authorities and from regulators. So this clearly has changed as the political climate has changed. We can talk about it later on maybe, but this is a fact. The second reason is that the energy dynamics has changed dramatically. When liberalization started in the 1990s, we had a situation in Europe, the European Union at that time, where we had a steady increase in electricity demand, not very high, but a steady one. So there was a linear growth of electricity demand year after year, and a very fast development of natural gas demand. You remember that the use of natural gas for electricity generation was prohibited from the 70s until the early 1990s. And when this prohibition was abolished, there was a boom in combined cycle gas-fired power plants across Europe, especially in some countries like the UK, Italy, the Netherlands, Spain, and a few others. But this was a period of very fast expansion of our gas infrastructure and the gas demand, not only for electricity generation, also for other uses, domestic and industrial uses. So regulation at that time had to deal with a situation of steady increase of demand, in some cases, a very substantial increase in energy demand, and the need to adapt the infrastructure to this growth in demand, and to make sure that the newcomers were introducing competition in this market for the benefit of consumers. And this was the case with the gas-fired power plants, which were mainly built by private investors benefiting from liberalization and competing against each other. And so from the beginning of liberalization until around 2005, this was the situation. But then came a long period of about 20 years where electricity demand did not grow anymore. It has been perfectly stable over the last 20 years in the European Union, and gas demand started to decrease for reasons that we know, which are political mainly. And so this has changed the mindset of regulators, because one thing is to regulate in the context of very fast growth, demand growth. Another thing is to have steady energy demand. The third and final, but last but not least, reason is that energy policy has changed. Energy policy at that time was much focused on, as you said, efficiency and on competitive energy prices for consumers. That was the main purpose. But things have changed since then, and many other objectives are now assigned to the energy sector, including, of course, a very important contribution to the decarbonization of our economy, but also to enhancing our strategic autonomy vis-a-vis energy exporting countries.
This makes the role of the regulator much more difficult because especially of renewable impact, of electrification, of the new trends. And we see that electrification is now changing again the demand growth. We are observing that the new data center growth for artificial intelligence is changing the landscape with a speed that is incredible. If you know what is happening in US, where the capacity auction skyrocketed the price due to the expected enormous growth in energy demand in the next few years. So this is again a new change that can be driven by an exogenous factors that reflects in the electric system. And again, independence can be at risk because there is a big political pressure about the ability of the power system to be ready for such a big job.
That's right. As I said before, for a long time, for 20 years, which is a long time, demand was dormant, so to say, and therefore it was not very high on the priorities of regulators, which is understandable. But maybe they slept too long, and they should have anticipated some of those developments. And you are right, there is now an increase in demand, at least in some parts of the world, a very substantial one. And I would add also other factors. One thing that we observe also is an increasing integration of different energy uses and energy vectors. And this is particularly evident in the case of mobility with the electric vehicles, but also, and even more, in the case of thermal energy, both in buildings, residential and commercial buildings through heat pumps, but also in industrial processes. And this, which is a consequence, of course, of the growing electrification, changes not only the amount of electricity that is needed to satisfy demand, but also the patterns of demand, the characteristics of demand. But this also creates some new opportunities for better managing the energy system. The second phenomenon is the trend towards self-generation. Residential, commercial, and industrial levels, we see more and more energy users willing to invest on the generation side and also on storage, energy, electrical and thermal storage. And this again is a big change and makes demand much more active. And the third element, of course, is digitalization, which is not specific of the energy industry, but is also a very important driving force for this transformation that we are observing. So I think it's really time to put demand, to put the energy users at the center of the regulatory policy.
I agree, but I come also to another point that are undertakings. Are now undertakings more powerful than in the past? How do you see their evolution? The role of the state when authorities started to operate seemed to be only more regulatory state, let's say. The idea was the reinventing government idea was steering rather than rowing, you remember, 92. And now there is a new state that a movement towards the big undertakings. Is this a big pressure for independent regulators, I think?
Well, this is for sure a big change, and this brings me back to my first point, which was the politics of regulation. At that time, in the early 1990s, it was the time where many people believed on the end of history. That's the title of a bestseller at that time. Believed on the end of politics, believed that free markets, global free markets, would make humanity much happier than before. And so there was maybe an excessive belief on the power of free markets. And what we have observed over the last 30 years is that there are many market failures, not only the traditional ones, not only the well-known externalities, but there is also a difficulty in, for instance, combining those different public policy objectives that we have mentioned, like independence and security of supply and decarbonization and digitalization and so on and so forth. And so these are political objectives that must be somehow incorporated in our regulatory policies, and also in the way that the sector is organized. Now, some people believe that this still can be achieved through free markets and independent regulation, but what we see around the world is that more and more governments, legislators, and societies do not believe on that and go into another direction. Sometimes this means state capitalism, so ownership, nationalizing or keeping in national hands the utilities, the energy companies. In other cases, governments don't go so far, but introduce more planning and recognize that there is a need for a trade-off between the free movement of the goods and the free investments of the private investors with some kind of long-term planning. And
all distort markets with support, incentives, all these things that it's difficult to distinguish the free market from the rest.
However, let's
launch a good signal.
But if you allow me just a final word on this, I think that this is also an opportunity, this moment of reflection about how we should proceed, how the next 25 years should look like. This is an opportunity also to improve things and maybe to get away from this mentality of the past, which looked at energy, in particular at electricity, as a pure commodity, and to realize that energy is more than that, and that energy is one way or another a defining element of a political community.
I would say of life.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Jorge. Thank you.
Thanks, Luca.
Have you here on this beautiful occasion at the end of this year, and we have a special occasion for discussion, which is ERRA's 25th commemoration year. So my name is Ságvári. I'm the vice chair of ERRA, and I have discussion with Mariusz, Swora, who is the chair of ERRA Strategic Advisory Board. So what feelings do you have?
Yes. In the beginning, I got a very good feeling about this interview and about the anniversary. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate and extend my best wishes to all amazing colleagues and friends from ERRA. I have worked with ERRA for the last 15 years, and I have never regretted a single minute. I believe the organization will continue to grow dynamically and successfully support energy regulators. So happy anniversary, ERRA.
Thank you so much. Also, I have a topic to discuss with you, as you have a very rich experience of being also a regulator. You are a man of practice and also theory. So I'd like to ask you regarding the independence of economic regulators and energy regulators in special. So why is it important to have independent economic regulation in a broad sense with this big stride that we had throughout the last 25 years? Personally, I have memories just the last 20 years, but 20 years ago, gas and electricity markets looked very, very different. National fragmented markets with different prices, different security of supply levels, different concepts regarding the sustainability. But there was the regulation. But first, the question: why is it important?
Well, it is important for many reasons, and there are many dimensions of regulatory independence. First of all, it is important because the energy market today is becoming increasingly complex. So the government needs specialized independent administrative agency, independent regulator, its expertise even more than before. What is also important is that energy regulators protect consumers and give investors a sense of stability in our unstable world. I would say that even if the government today is focused on centralization, which may entail plans to limit the role of energy regulators or independent administrative agencies as such, there are no easy institutional substitutes to energy regulators today.
And how you see that aspect changing from time to time? Because in the last 20-25 years, the role of regulators and the independence level and its exact content evolved and changed. So how you see it over time?
Yes, you mentioned that in the beginning, energy regulators had started as guardians against monopolies. Then their role became more proactive, I would say, as they started to pursue market liberalization. For at least 10 to 15 years, they've been actively engaged in the energy transition. Unfortunately, this role is often not properly recognized by core governments, which do not allocate enough sufficient resources to perform this task. this puts regulatory independence at risk.
And how you see it in light of the energy crisis, which happened or started 3 years ago. We active regulators within EU, outside the EU, we feel that we had many new tasks, many new ad hoc type of questions from ministries, from governments. Do you think that it had an impact on our level of independence?
Yeah, you're right. Just to give you a practical example, the Polish regulator didn't get resources for 20 new tasks during last 5 years. So we can imagine this can be a problem for a regulator, and I know that the Polish regulator is not alone in such a difficult situation. Well, I would say that the recent energy crisis brought regulators and core governments closer together. Regulators actively participated in preparing countermeasures and applied administrative price control instruments. Some of these measures have already been abandoned, but it's probably too early to say whether the effects of the crisis have permanently changed the approach to independence of regulators. On the other hand, there are also a number of other factors, other new factors related to increasing, growing state interventionism that are affecting regulators. I think we need to wait a little bit, maybe to conduct a more in-depth analysis of the impact of this new phenomenon on energy regulators and energy regulation.
Yeah, maybe it takes time to see whether there is a bigger pattern or not that we can see a bit later. So what do you see as the regulatory independence can be safeguarded? What are the tools? Who can help us regulators in doing so?
Well, there are of course many dimensions of regulatory independence. We all know them. Everything starts with institutional and functional independence, translating to the clear delineation of the position of competencies and powers of energy regulators. It should exclude also. I mean, the legislation should exclude also any form of hierarchical control over the regulator. The second important pillar is personal independence of leadership and staff, and the third one is financial independence, meaning that the budget of a regulatory agency should be adequate and predictable, free from political interference. What is also important is to keep democratic control over energy regulators, over independent regulators. It should be maintained in accordance with principles of transparency and accountability. You asked about protection. Regulatory independence can be protected and safeguarded by law, but also by responsible politics, recognizing properly the role of energy regulators and their significance. In the EU, independence is clearly prescribed in electricity and gas directives, and it is protected by the European Commission and European Court of Justice. Another example of international protection is OECD, which has regulatory independence high on the agenda. There are also organizations of energy regulators that actively promote independence, regulatory independence. The best example is our ERRA, which was founded, to promote the model of independent administrative agencies in the energy sector, and has been doing so successfully for 25 years. I'm pretty sure that it will continue to do so for another quarter of a century, as there will still be the case for independent energy regulators.
Thank you for these thoughts. Just one last question. You have a book. You wrote a book regarding the independent administrative bodies. What is the central message, or what would you say about the central ideas of your book?
Well, I started researching energy regulation and regulators 20 years ago. Since then, indeed, I have issued a book on independent administrative agencies and various books and articles on energy law and energy regulation. Paul, that I had the opportunity, to confront my academic views with regulatory practice when I served as the president of Energy Regulatory Office in Poland and as a member of the Board of Appeal at the ACER. Well, the main lesson from my research is that legal provisions guaranteeing independence are a necessary basis. But how this independence is exercised in practice is equally important. Another key finding is that independence is never absolute. Given the political context in which regulators operate and the necessary interactions between energy regulation and general energy policy.
Thank you for this discussion. It's never enough to talk about the importance and the content of the regulatory independence, especially for such a milestone event for ERRA, for the quarter of a century. But by closing, you mentioned you have a personal message or gift for ERRA from your son. So can you show it for us?
Yes, I can show it. Antoni, 7 years old, prepared the drawing, especially for ERRA, underlining, international dimension we operate, that plane. That plane is presenting this international dimension. You can also see a windmill, and 25 years anniversary. So happy anniversary, ERRA, also from Antoni.
Thank you so much also for your son, and happy 25th anniversary to ERRA, and thank you for this discussion, Mariusz.
Thank you for interviewing me, Paul. All the best from Poland.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello from Bangkok. This is Kani from Energy Regulatory Commission, Thailand. To me, ERRA means summer, spring, autumn, and winter. All years. You're the best. ขอบคุณค่ะ
My name is Ifi Kono, an energy policy, markets and regulation consultant based in Abuja, Nigeria. For me, ERRA means promoting regulatory excellence through collaboration.
I'm Maya Melikidze. I'm an executive director of Georgian Renewable Energy Development Association based in Georgia. ERRA means for me family and friendly relations, exchange of expertise, experience through professionalism and modern achievements of technology.
Okan Yardımcı, EMRA of Türkiye. When I first met ERRA, I was in my 20s. Since then, ERRA has been guiding me, challenging me, inspiring me.
Bob Archer, California. ERRA is where different backgrounds and common interests come together to share learning, experience, and move forward, and sometimes make friends.
For me, ERRA means gaining knowledge in energy regulation, sharing the experience, and shaping better energy future.
Among ERRA members, you can always find good regulatory practices which could fit to your market structure and operational model.
To the question, what ERRA means to you? With one word, cooperation. With three words, cooperation, networking, and knowledge exchange.
ERRA is an organization designed to provide good advice, facilitate a network of global experts, and offer a platform for professional development on international level.
Hi, this is Gülevşan from Turkey. What ERRA means to me is strong energy ties through reliability, resilience, and everlasting friendship. Happy 25th anniversary.
Hi, I'm Erin Hamill, Senior Director of Professional Development at NARUC in the United States. I've had the privilege of working with ERRA leaders, members, and its secretariat from 1999 to 2008 under funding support from the U.S. Agency for International Development. It's been an honor to maintain those relationships since then. To me, ERRA stands for expertise in energy regulation and long-standing friendships. Congratulations on your 25th anniversary.
Eve Fragoudaki from Regulatory Authority for Energy, Waste and Water of Greece. ERRA means the voice that I'm not alone. Happy birthday,